You just said something completely ordinary. Maybe you were talking to your partner across the room, maybe you were on the phone, maybe you were just thinking out loud. And your baby, lying there on the playmat, seemingly lost in their own little world, suddenly went still. Their eyes shifted. Their body changed. Something moved behind those eyes. You didn't do anything special, but something landed. Welcome to Silent Baby Mind. Subscribe right now, because what you're about to learn today will permanently change the way you look at your child. Most parents assume that language understanding in babies begins somewhere around the time their child starts talking back. That first mama, that first no, that first recognizable word coming out of their mouth, that's when we think comprehension begins. But science tells a radically different story. Your baby has been listening, processing, and building meaning from your words for far longer than you ever imagined. And the last word we're going to talk about today is one that researchers say most parents use in a way that may be quietly shaping their child's emotional world in ways they never intended. You need to hear this before you say it again. 1. They know their name. Picture this. Your baby is on the floor, completely absorbed in a toy. The television is on. There are other sounds in the room. And you say their name, once, softly, without even trying to get their attention. And they turn, not toward the sound, toward you. That moment, which most parents write off as coincidence or luck, is actually one of the earliest and most remarkable demonstrations of language processing in the developing human brain. Research published in the journal Developmental Psychology found that babies as young as 4.5 months old show a measurable preference for their own name over other names, even when spoken by a stranger in a flat, emotionless tone. By 5 to 6 months, the response becomes even more consistent. Their name, among all the sounds in your household, has already begun to mean something distinct. What is happening in their brain during those moments is stunning. The auditory cortex isn't just registering a sound pattern, it's comparing that pattern against an internal library that the baby has been building since before birth. Yes, before birth. Studies from the University of Helsinki using EEG technology on newborns found that babies exposed to specific sound patterns in the womb showed neural recognition responses to those same patterns within hours of being born. The brain is not starting from zero at birth. It arrives already primed. By the time your baby is consistently turning to their name, they have processed it thousands of times across dozens of different contexts. They've heard it in your happy voice, your worried voice, your sleepy voice. They've heard it when feeding was coming, when a bath was about to start, when a cuddle was on the way. And just like everything else the developing brain does, it has been cross-referencing. It has been calculating what that specific sound pattern tends to predict. This is why the context in which you say your baby's name matters more than most parents realize. If their name is said most frequently in moments of warmth, engagement, and joy, those associations begin layering into the neural architecture around that word. If their name is said most frequently in tense, urgent, or frustrated moments, those layers form differently. Your baby doesn't understand the full meaning of their name yet, but they are already building an emotional forecast around the sound of it. 2. They know what no means before you think they do. Here is a moment every parent knows. Your baby is reaching for something they shouldn't have, a cable, a glass, something breakable, something dangerous. And before you even finish the thought, the word comes out. Sharp, quick, automatic, no. And sometimes, remarkably, they stop. They look at you. And you think, did they just understand me? Yes. And also, not in the way you think. Research comparing language processing in pre-verbal infants and toddlers has found that babies respond to sharp, short, corrective sounds in a way that is less about semantic understanding and more about prosodic processing. The brain detecting an abrupt, tonally distinct signal that differs from normal conversational speech. That difference triggers an orienting response. The behavior pauses. Attention redirects. It is a biological interrupt mechanism, and it works long before true word comprehension develops. But here's where it gets more complicated, and where the research becomes genuinely important for parents. A landmark study published in the journal Child Development examined the long-term effects of frequent negative verbal corrections on infants and toddlers across their first 2 years of life. What they found was not what most parents would expect. Babies who were exposed to frequent sharp, loud, or emotionally charged negative verbal cues showed elevated cortisol responses, the biological marker of stress over time. Their nervous systems were being trained through repetition to associate caregiving interactions with a background level of alertness and unpredictability. That does not mean you should never say no to your baby. It means the how matters enormously. A calm, firm, single use of a corrective word, followed immediately by redirection toward something appropriate, teaches without elevating stress. An explosive, frequently repeated use of correction, especially one tied to the parent's own emotional frustration, teaches something different. It teaches that the environment is unpredictable. And for a brain that is in the most sensitive and rapid period of its entire development, unpredictability is one of the most disorganizing experiences imaginable. Researchers from Harvard Center on the Developing Child have documented extensively how early stress responses, when repeated frequently, can affect the architecture of the developing brain itself, particularly in regions related to emotional regulation and stress management. This is not about being a perfect parent. It is about understanding that your baby is not just hearing your word. They are absorbing the entire emotional weather system surrounding it. 3. They know the word eat before they can sit up. You haven't said anything yet. You haven't reached for the bottle. You haven't moved toward the kitchen. But somehow, something in the routine shifted, and your baby is already turning their head, opening their mouth, making those unmistakable signals. How do they know? The answer takes us into one of the most fascinating areas of infant cognition research: predictive processing. The developing brain is not a passive receiver of information. It is an active prediction machine, constantly building models of what is likely to happen next based on patterns it has already observed. Long before your baby understands the word eat as a semantic concept, they have mapped the chain of events that surrounds feeding. Your posture changes. A particular sound occurs. The environment shifts in a specific sequence, and somewhere in that chain, if you consistently use the same word, the word itself becomes part of the predictive architecture. Research from the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences found that infants as young as 6 months show anticipatory neural responses to words associated with routine high-value experiences. The brain is not waiting to hear the word and then deciding what to do. It is already preparing for the experience the moment the word appears in the stream of input. This is classical conditioning operating at a neurological level that most of us never learned about in school. And it explains why your baby sometimes seems to know what is coming before you've done anything obvious. They are not reading your mind. They have built a detailed model of your behavior, and the word you use most consistently in association with feeding has become one of the most reliable signals in that model. Think about what that means. The word you choose, the tone you use, the consistency with which you use it, all of it is contributing to a predictive framework that your baby is building in real time. They are not waiting to start learning. They started the moment they arrived. 4. They know the names of the people they love. Here is something you can try right now. Hold your baby and say the name of their other parent or their grandparent or whoever they spend the most time with. Say it in a completely neutral, conversational tone, and watch their face. If you see their eyes shift toward the door or toward the place where that person usually sits, or if something in their expression changes in a way that is hard to describe but unmistakable when you see it, you just witnessed something that developmental researchers consider one of the most profound early achievements of the infant mind. Babies begin mapping the names of their primary caregivers onto specific people far earlier than developmental milestones traditionally suggest. Research published in the journal Cognition found that infants between 6 and 10 months showed measurable differential responses to the names of familiar caregivers compared to unfamiliar names, even when those names were spoken by someone other than the usual speaker. The meaning was beginning to attach to the word itself, not just to the voice that usually said it. The mechanism is the same one powering all early language acquisition, associative learning through repetition and attention. Every time someone said, "Mama," and that person appeared, your baby's brain logged it. Every time "Dada" was said in a warm, happy context, with that person present and engaged, the association strengthened. Over hundreds of repetitions, across weeks and months, the word became a reliable predictor of a specific person's presence. But here's the part that most parents never consider. The emotional tone you use when you say someone's name in front of your baby is being absorbed and archived. Your baby is not just learning who the word refers to. They are learning what emotional world surrounds that person, filtered through you. If a certain name is consistently said in a tense or anxious tone, that charge begins to accumulate. If a name is said with warmth and joy, that accumulates too. Your baby is building a social and emotional map of their world, and you are the primary cartographer. 5. They know what "I love you" means, not the words, something deeper. Of everything we've talked about today, this is the one that matters most, and it's the most important one to get right. Your baby does not understand the semantic meaning of "I love you." They won't for years. But they understand something about those words that goes far beyond definition, and the research into early attachment and language development makes this undeniably clear. A foundational series of studies from the University of Minnesota examining infant attachment found that the prosodic features of language, the rhythm, the pitch, the warmth, the slowness, are processed by the infant brain in a fundamentally different way than semantic content. Babies are exquisitely sensitive to what researchers call motherese, or infant-directed speech, the natural way most caregivers shift their voice when speaking to a baby: softer, higher, more musical, more emotionally present. When you say "I love you" to your baby in that voice, something specific happens. The limbic system, the brain's emotional processing center, activates. The parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for the rest and connect state, is engaged. The baby's body literally relaxes into a different physiological state. They are not processing a concept. They are processing a feeling that is being delivered through sound. And here is what the research makes abundantly clear, and why this is the word most parents get wrong without realizing it. The problem isn't parents who don't say "I love you" enough. The problem is parents who say it in moments when the rest of their behavior is saying something different. You say "I love you" while scrolling your phone, distracted, not making eye contact. You say it while rushing through the bedtime routine, your voice carrying the stress of a long day. You say it in a flat tone because you're exhausted and you're going through the motions. Your baby hears the word, but they also hear everything else. And because the emotional content of the delivery does not match the warmth the words are meant to convey, the brain receives a mixed signal, not a damaging one in isolation. But repeated often enough, a pattern begins to form. Research from the Harvard Study of Adult Development, the longest-running study of human well-being ever conducted, has found that the quality of early emotional communication, not just its frequency, is one of the most significant predictors of long-term psychological resilience, emotional regulation, and relational security. The words matter, but the presence behind the words matters more. When you say, "I love you" to your baby, and you mean it completely, when your face is soft and your voice is warm and your eyes are on them and only them, your baby's brain is doing something extraordinary. It is building a template, a neural model of what safety feels like, what connection feels like, what being seen feels like. That template will follow them for the rest of their life. They cannot say it back yet, but they are receiving it in a way that is more complete, more whole brain, more embodied than most adult communication ever manages to be. So here is what we have learned today. Your baby knows their name not as a label, but as a signal, and they are already building an emotional forecast around the sound of it, based on every moment you've said it. Your baby knows your corrective words, and not just as sounds, but as predictors of the emotional atmosphere around them. How you use them shapes the stress architecture of their developing brain. Your baby knows the words tied to their most important daily experiences, and they have built entire predictive chains around them without a single formal lesson. Your baby knows the names of the people they love, and they have absorbed the emotional tone you attach to those names as part of their map of the world. And your baby knows "I love you," not the words, but what lives inside them when you mean them completely. Every moment of genuine presence, every instance of warm, attentive connection is being written into the deepest structures of who they are becoming. You have been talking to your baby this whole time. They have been listening with their whole brain, their whole body, their whole emerging self. Now you know what they've been hearing. If this changed the way you see your baby, share this video with a parent who needs to hear it. And if you want to keep going deeper into the hidden world of your baby's mind, subscribe to Silent Baby Mind right now. Hit that bell so you never miss what's coming next. If this video helped you, leave a like. It helps more parents find this content. And drop a comment below. Tell us, what word do you think your baby understands that still surprises you? See you in the next video.